Welcome to another edition of Radical Grace Radio.
I'm Pastor Gary Held.
My name's Matthew Pancake. This is episode 820. We've been talking about the gospel for 820 episodes.
That's pretty good.
And lately, like I try to remind myself every week that we are about talking about the mind of Christ. So what's kind of going on this show all the time, or at least I like to think that it's going on all the time, is we take this thing like news roll and news stories and the Bible and things like that.
Right.
And we make sure that that's what we're doing, is we're like focused on it with the mind of Christ. This is just a way of demonstrating how that would be something that you could do in your own life. Somebody asked me once here, said, so what's the practical takeaway from like your show? And I said, that's what it is. It's if like, who would want to become a Christian if you didn't become something like Christ? And most people kind of stress about that. But, you know, sometimes when you say to people thinking with the mind of Christ, they kind of look at you funny, like, can you really do that? And it's, yeah, you're actually told you can.
St. Paul said that we have the mind of Christ. I kind of think that I'll go along with whatever he wrote. So
yeah, it's not like, okay, see, I have the mind of Christ and I'm going to set it up on the shelf here.
Well, that's what people actually do, though. It'd be funny, except that they do that. It's like, I know how I'm supposed to look at this situation, and yet, no, not gonna do it. I'm going to get all bent out of shape about something that somebody did something I didn't like, especially when it happens on the internet. Right. I really got to react to that. Okay,
right. So that's a thing, and that's a thing that we try to do on the show, and that's the for me, like the first time that I was like realizing that I could think with the mind of Christ was years ago, whenever I realized that the gospel isn't just another way of talking about the law, because there's an awful lot of that goes on. You know, people say the gospel, and they say, I'm going to tell you about the gospel. You are, and then it sounds like, you know, their top 20 commandments.
Well, you know, unless you believe these things and do these things, you'll perish eternally. Well, right. Okay. So there may be some things in that mix that they are, you know, they're not presenting it exactly in the most winsome way, but they may be making some points. But, you know, if you're focusing on this is what the penalty for sin is, instead of here's what the grace of God has already done for you and what he is actively doing in your life now, you know, that's the difference. That's what makes a difference.
And that's joy, because that's realizing that your heavenly Father is doing things in your life where, like, if you were concerned about it, he's actually doing things and not just saying, okay, you know, I'm even there.
You're caught up in a story, and you know, I think about remember the people who remember the movie Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp, right? And there's a place where the gal, I can't think of the character's name. But anyway, she's talking to the head pirate and of the ship there. She got kidnapped or sort of kidnapped, and you know, he says, you know, whether you're about ghost story, whether you believe in them or not, you're in one now. Right. That's the whole point. You're in a love story now. You're wrapped up in a redemption story. Right. That's what it really is. And you're not the main writer, right? You get to play the parts that your character plays in it. Whatever is allowed or you know, put into the script for you.
Yeah, here are your lines. Don't stray from that.
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody will say, well, that doesn't sound very much like free will. Yeah, Lutherans get that a lot. But
every analogy breaks down under scrutiny.
Of course it does.
You know, so if that's what happens with that.
The idea that you're caught up in a story that is better, it's a better story than you could have dreamed up on your own. Right. That's for sure.
When you said story just now, and it's interesting that you went to Pirates of the Caribbean, you started to say it, and then there was a little bit of a stutter, and in my mind, I thought you were going to say you're caught up in a storm.
Well, but part of the story is we get through the storm.
Right. Part of it is stormy.
there's a storm that has to be weathered, and
Right.
by God's grace, we will. So
That's
there you
right.
go.
That's right. Okay, so by God's grace, now I've worked really hard on this set of stories. So this is a thing that we're going to do, and it's a Christian news roll, and we're going to use the mind of Christ to think about these stories. So here we go. Oh boy, a Tennessee church congregation desperately seeks the safe return of a stolen moving truck containing nearly 2,000 ancient, I'm using that word, organ pipes, because most people would think pipe organ. Wow, those are really old, aren't they? Well, sort of. Calvary Episcopal Church in Memphis had carefully loaded the Penske truck with the valuable pipes, intending to transport them to the Spencer Organ Company in Boston for restoration. To their dismay, the church discovered on Sunday of all days, that the truck and its priceless 90-year-old pipes had been stolen. Joseph Rotella, the owner of the Spencer Organ Company, explained in a police report that the stolen pipes hold little value outside of their purpose in the organ restoration project. He said this: "They have amazing intrinsic value to this project. They are historic. It will be tough to duplicate them, but they don't have a lot of value outside of this organ." In collaboration with the Memphis police and Penske, the church is actively searching for the missing truck, hoping for a resolution similar to what's happened with other instances in the industry where stolen vehicles were abandoned upon realizing the low street value of the contents. There are no suspects at this time, however.
Okay, well, the number 4 story. Fewer Americans consider religion important, according to a survey conducted by the Public Religion Research Institute. That's the PRRI, and that survey was taken in 2022. Now, this survey included 5,872 American adults, and it revealed that only 57%, right? They rarely or never attend religious services. So, they're not, well, that's the majority, right? Which is an increase from 2019. However, the survey also found that regular churchgoers tend to remain with the same church for over 10 years, indicating that, they have certain amount of satisfaction and commitment. So the survey also showed churchgoers are optimistic, with 82% expressing confidence in the future of their congregations and 89% stating they are proud to be associated with their church. People who attend church regularly tend to be more involved in civic and political activities. That's true. And then those who are seldom or never attending. And this includes government officials serving on committees and volunteering for political groups. Most churchgoers believe their congregations have not become politically divided in recent years. The survey reveals the topics most commonly discussed in church sermons, including poverty, inequality, racism, and abortion. Former President Donald Trump and election fraud receive less attention. Can't believe they receive any. Anyway, Catholics, especially white and Hispanic ones, increasingly view religion as unimportant. 25% of Americans change their religious beliefs, with 37% being former Catholics. Many are leaving religions due to disbelief, mistreatment or perceived mistreatment of LGBTQ individuals, and I believe this one, disillusionment from scandals, right? Only 17% cite congregational politicization as a minor factor in their decision to leave. So, everybody who has been saying it's because they're getting so political now, and that's why people are leaving. Yeah, the survey results didn't really bear that out.
Yeah, I really do believe the scandal thing, because there's been a lot of them. So I can't imagine.
Well, of every stripe of church, it's not like you can point and say it's just those guys over there. Just like, oh, wait a minute, and over here, and over here.
Yeah, the list of churches that haven't had a scandal might be easier to do that than, you know what I mean. Okay, number 3. And here's another one. And this is actually kind of important. If you're like in church leadership or anything out there, listen carefully. Officials have discovered that the Florida Baptist Convention fell victim to cyber theft losing over $700,000 in mission funds. Now, despite the loss, the convention intends to honor its commitments using its reserves. The scammers used a phishing attack. And if you don't know what that is, that's sending a fake email claiming to be, in this case, from the North American Mission Board and requesting a transfer of funds to a different account than what they were used to. Investigations are being conducted to determine how the scammers obtained knowledge of the convention's practices. In other words, the email seemed really authentic. Said, we know that this is how things have been done. We'd like to change it so that it's this way. And they made it plausible. The Florida Baptist Convention has announced plans to enhance its cybersecurity measures. However, they have yet to disclose any specific actions that they'll take to achieve this. Churches and businesses are warned about the ongoing threat of cyber crimes and you're advised to scrutinize payment requests. Similar incidents have affected other churches, emphasizing a need for caution. Here's some examples. The convention hopes to mitigate losses through insurance and insurance recovery and stolen funds. Recovering stolen funds can be lengthy and insurance coverage may vary. Verifying instructions received via email through phone calls is recommended to prevent fraud. So, see, if I was to request funds from like our fund here, I would never, like I've already told them, I said, I'm not going to just send you a text saying, hey, do something with the funding.
Right.
Earlier today, Carl was in here. I won't say who he is, but it's like he knows that I would ask him directly.
Yeah, so, there's proper channels, etc.
It's just a scruple I got. It's like, you receive any emails that's supposedly from me talking about finances, pitch it. Just delete it, pretend it never came.
All right. The number 2 story. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte, I hope I said his name correctly, has signed a groundbreaking bill making it, brace yourself, making it illegal for TikTok to operate in the state. The law addresses concerns over potential data harvesting by the Chinese government, as well as disseminating pro-Beijing misinformation. Right. Now, Montana's law goes beyond existing bans that are already in place on government devices, impacting the platform's 200,000 users and 6,000 businesses in the state. So cybersecurity experts question the efficacy of the ban and its enforceability. Critics argue enforcing the ban will be challenging as it relies on app stores like Apple and Google to prevent the downloads. At the same time, trade groups representing TikTok argue it infringes on free speech rights and violates constitutional protections. Legal battles are expected as this new law faces opposition.
In the meantime, I hear that TikTok is getting ready to change their name, as a result of this. They're going to change their name to Cesspool.
Oh. What do you know? Okay.
Because that's basically what it is. Now, have you ever wondered what it looks like when a judge in a superior court has to get involved in a church schism? It looks kind of like this. Cobb Superior Court Senior Judge Stephen Schuster ruled in favor of United Methodist Church, congregations' right to vote on leaving the denomination. Lately, they've been telling these churches, whole groups of them, like 65, 130 churches, that, sorry, you can't leave until we say you can. The judge emphasized the duty of the North Georgia Council to assist the congregations in holding the vote and ensuring it's done properly within the purview of the Book of Discipline of the UMC. However, the North Georgia's conference is considering an appeal against Judge Schuster's ruling. Now, for people who don't know, the Book of Discipline, I didn't actually know this, but this is a far-flung book. It's the Book of Discipline of the United Methodist Church, and it's a fundamental book that contains the laws, like bylaws, doctrines, organizational work, administration, and procedures of the denomination. So, in other words, they have this big thing that has all their bylaws in there, and they're having, this ongoing debate over sexual ethics has prompted many conservative Methodist congregations to consider leaving the denomination, with a significant number joining the newly launched Global Methodist Church. Last December, the regional body temporarily blocked the member churches from disaffiliating due to concerns about misinformation. The conference raised concerns about misleading information and its potential to cause irreparable harm. In March, 186, there's that number, 186 congregations filed a lawsuit against the conference in Cobb County Court, and they got what they were looking for. And that's this week's Christian News Roll. So, for instance, I was just curious this morning because I was, wondering, what's missing from some of these stories. I got to figure out what to do about it. So it came to my attention that, you might not know exactly how this would work. So if you had to appeal a decision, since they intend to appeal,
yes,
of the Superior Court of Cobb County, you would appeal to the Georgia Court of Appeals, that intermediate court. So this is like 12 judges that are divided up into threes to talk about this. So it would be a 3-man panel. The appeals to the court is generally made as a matter of right. So in other words, they can go right there. They don't have to petition the court. They don't have to do anything like that. There are requirements and there are deadlines that they have to meet, but I'm sure that they're going to do that. Now, if they fail at the Court of Appeals, the next step is to petition the Supreme Court of Georgia. And that is not an automatic right. They would have to, write out their petition, explain why it is, and then the court could still say, well, we're not going to do it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the court agrees with them. It just means that we're not going to do it.
They didn't hear it. They wouldn't. They basically declined to hear it. Right. Whereas you're saying this court that they're going to go to first, you don't have to go through that and get them to agree to even hear the case. Yeah. So they'll hear the case, but okay, all right. So I can see this being a drawn out process. Yeah. I mean, you have appeals and then you have other appeals and then you appeal these. It just, think about this. Let's suppose that's not the diocese, whatever it is, the United Methodist Church, that district or whatever that is taking it to court, right? Mm-hmm. The hierarchy, right? Suppose they win. Well, that doesn't mean it's over. I mean, because then there'll be an appeal from the other guys, the 186 congregations that said, "Wait a minute, we've already gotten a judgment on this." So that's why I say this could easily go on a very long time.
The thought that I had about the fact that this is all about their book of discipline.
Yeah.
So the judge goes to the book of discipline and says that, no, your own documents say that this is the way, because they're looking at it like a contract. So it says that this is the way that it's supposed to be done. However, that's the same book of discipline that they're having problems with regards to the sexual ethics, which is, they're blessing same-sex unions, things like that. So they're already sort of disregarding the book of discipline in that regard. So they were also disregarding it with the idea that, here's 186 churches that they're done. They want out. Nope, sorry, can't do it. It's like, well, it says so in the book of discipline that we can do this. And they had to go to a judge to get that done. And I don't know. I can't imagine.
So I'm gonna ask the question, because you've actually gotten me thinking about it. Is so how do we look at this specific story? This is the number one story,
right?
Okay, how do we look at this and think about it with the mind of Christ? I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. One is that, you can say way upstream, the people that are trying to operate outside of the agreed upon book of discipline, if they really feel this way about it, you can't appeal to it later and say, but this is the point you're making. So is that it's a violation of conscience? What is it? There's all kinds of ways. So the folks that are in the United Methodist Church who are trying to hold them to it. So they say, well, this is about
misinformation.
Yeah. And there may be something to that. I mean, just doesn't seem like there's a a good place to inject, inject it everywhere you can, some Christian charity, and like,
Yeah.
okay, let me hear your real concern and I will really listen to you. I won't just listen to you while I'm formulating an argument to counter you. I
Yeah.
mean, so this is already a division that shows the lack of Christian respect for each other.
Right.
These are
If I was thinking about it that way, I would say that, okay, so basically what they did was they had to go before a magistrate, if you will.
right.
I'm just thinking in terms of historical, in order to get your law problem fixed. So
Yeah.
where in here is like the gospel, like you were talking about, where's some grace? Where is some, Christian mercy in this? You're all about, like, if I was to talk about them, say you're all about being gracious and merciful to people who want to have a same-sex union and all of that stuff. But what about like the bulk of your people? Like, are you just telling them tough luck? Tough. You're just, this is me, like, just critiquing the situation. It's like, so the problem is that you disregarded your book of discipline in the first place to just get what you wanted done, and then whenever the churches rebelled, you did it again.
So you say, so get what you wanted done. So let's presume not we're not going to push this too far, but that the people that took that initial stance weren't just, we're doing it because we want to do it because we don't care what anybody else thinks. Maybe instead what they're doing is they're saying, well, we believe that this is the right thing to do, and therefore we fundamentally believe the book of discipline is compelling us to take what is, in our view, an immoral stance. Okay, now let's suppose that they really sincerely think that. What do you do then? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't tell people, well, squash your conscience and get on board with the program because the book of discipline says so. It's just there's no desire to see anybody else's viewpoint other than their own. That's what I'm getting out of this. So
Yeah, that's what's basically going on. So they banned cesspool. I mean, TikTok.
yeah.
I mean, last week I think one of the things was about Pornhub, and it's interesting that these all have these kinds of names. The TikTok, Pornhub. It's okay. OnlyFans. That's one that gets tossed around a lot lately.
Sure.
But the thing is like, if have you ever tried to like deal with TikTok even for a couple of minutes?
I think once or twice I've watched a video on TikTok because I had a family member who, one of my family
who phone up and say, "Look at this."
Who put the better than that, this family member actually posted something on TikTok. So I was interested in seeing, what was posted, but
okay.
I don't know my way around in that one. I'm really showing myself to be a dinosaur. I understand that.
Oh, be a dinosaur, because most of the stuff that's on TikTok it's garbage. There's a tendency to have these challenges, these TikTok challenges.
Okay.
So the latest one is to just randomly walk into people's homes. So here's one that's like it's in a city. I'm not sure which one, and this was posted on Twitter, and so it's like a brownstone. So you got to go up the steps and stuff like that. So these three people have got their phone and are like, "Here we go, we're gonna go," and they just walk right past the owner, and the door's propped open a little bit, and they just walk in, and they're like, "Hey," and they just sit down in the living room while they're filming themselves. And they're going to put that on there because, of course, they're going to get people to think that they're stunning and brave for having done something stupid enough to like get somebody to come running up the stairs going, "Exactly what's going on in here now?"
Yeah.
How do you know that I don't have weapons ready to murder you for being in my home? For why are you, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, it's a clear. Well, you know what? This is the same thing we've talked about other things in other contexts. It's when doing it for the lulz is justification enough. Like,
Yeah.
you
Or
got
for the
hurt.
likes.
I did it for the lulz.
Yeah.
Your property got damaged. Well, I did it for the lulz. Well, wait a minute.
Well, they did it for likes.
Yeah.
It's worse.
It's worse than the lulz. It's for the likes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
see, there's another one that goes around, and it's people licking ice cream. Now, it sounds like it's nothing, but it's licking ice cream while you're in the store. You just pull it out, open the thing, lick the ice cream, put the lid back on, and stick it back in the freezer, and then run. That's a thing. It's a popular thing.
well,
So that's the reason why I think
okay.
there's a Freudian slip. TikTok should be called cesspool. And they should just own up to it. And then at least that way, if people are on there, they know what they're really doing. This is what's happened. Your whole life is governed by.
So what do you do when the
thing can I do?
Well, yeah. What this is the race to the bottom, basically. The cultural race to the bottom. How much can I not forget about just degrading myself? How much can I degrade my neighbor?
Right.
Well, that's how the world would go about doing it, right? If I can make you uncomfortable and in the process give myself more notoriety, well, then I guess that's good for me and bad for you. But if in the world's point of view, who cares about you? Well, it used to be that the world said, yeah, but we've got some use of force to compel civil behavior. And well, now people aren't afraid of the civil use of force because for a lot of reasons, I'm not looking back on, boy, I wish it was the good old days when people could count on getting a good thrashing. I don't think that's the answer either. We've gotten ourselves into a bad place, and there is not an easy way out of it.
Right
there. But I think that of all the things that are, you're talking about how much imbecility there is on TikTok. There is some evidence. I mean, I don't know if it's compelling evidence, but some people in the know really do think that TikTok is collecting data for the Chinese government. Now, if it's mostly stupid data, I don't know how it benefits them, but I don't really like the thought of being part of that fire hose of data. So
if it's stupid data,
well, yeah, that's how I'm looking at it. That's
TikTok is collecting stupid data. Well, they have a saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, put a stupid app out, get stupid data.
I have no doubt that that's exactly how it's going down. So this was interesting, I guess, kind of interesting, a long story, but the story about fewer Americans considering religion important.
Right.
So I think that a lot of folks would agree this is consistent with the dropping off of merely cultural Christianity. Like, well, I'm kind of Christian by default because I don't want to be labeled as an atheist. And by the way, I'm not Jewish and I'm not Muslim and I'm not Buddhist. So I guess I'm just generic. What's generic? Well, I guess I'm Christian. What does that mean?
Whatever everybody else is.
Yeah.
But now everybody else isn't necessarily. So,
right. So, so now the default is I am spiritual, but not religious.
Yeah. Whatever that means.
Well, yeah.
See, here's the thing is let's say that we were going to do something that was religious, not spiritual on the other side of the break, which I actually, I'm not saying let's do that, but because
there's a challenge.
There's a challenge for
challenge accepted.
No, but in all seriousness, what are we going to do on the other side of the break?
Well, you know what? I've got an opportunity here in about a week or two that we're going to have our vacation Bible school here at Trinity in Monroe. And what we're going to do this year is talk about Jesus is the living water, and the way that God brings forth living water into our lives. And so each of the days of the VBS, or in this case, what we're doing is in the evenings, each of the evenings are going to be looking at different themes where water plays an important role in communicating the grace of God. And I know what you're thinking right away. At least I hope you are. You should be thinking of baptism.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But actually, it starts up. Look what I'm doing here. It starts upstream of that. Oh, yeah. So we're going to look at some of the topics and take a deep dive into one of them. So,
okay. So in that case, stick with us, and we'll be back with more Radical Grace Radio in just a moment.